first want to thank Kathy and April for pulling all the food and logistics and everything together. So thank you, ladies. I'm excited y'all came. I am very pleased to have Brant and the students from Sangamon CEO here to talk to us about this program. I'm going to let them do all the talking, so I'm going to hand it right over to Brant.
Thank you. If I stand about here and talk, can everybody hear me okay? Can anybody not hear me? You're good in the back and you guys can hear me over here? I think I'd be a little better. I'm used to shouting at the students all day long, so I'm kidding. I'm Brant Mackey. I'm the instructor for Sangamon CEO. I took on this job at the beginning of the fall. Real quick background on me. I spent 25 years in the business community. I worked for some of the world's largest companies. I worked for IBM for a while. I worked for another company called VF Corporation. And then moved to Springfield and started a small business there. I owned a little publication called Springfield Business Journal. It just went out to some of the business community there. I had always wanted to be a teacher. I had always dreamed of a career in teaching. I wanted to be an elementary school teacher. I student taught kindergarten, and ironically, and now I'm teaching high school students, which is kind of unique. They actually hired me when they heard I had student taught in kindergarten. They figured I could handle just about anything. But I've been over and talked to a couple of the other, I was over to Christian County and talked to them a little bit, and now I'm here. You guys are great. I mean, you guys are incredible. Give yourself a round of applause. This is a huge plan. This is fantastic. What's the story behind this building? Can anybody tell me? This is a great building.
I'll have to tell you.
Oh, really? Go.
So, built by the Scully family in the early 1900s. They managed hundreds of thousands of acres of farm ground in central Illinois. They had their offices here, changed hands a few times, had a big fire in 2001.
Oh,
and
really?
it was gutted. And we picked it up in 2008 after it sat for 7 years, and we completely redid it. And now houses Integrity Data. We're a software company here in town. So.
This would make a great classroom. I'll tell you right now. This would make a great classroom. At CEO, we don't want to stick them in a school somewhere. We want to put them out in the business community. We want to have them walk through the door as if they're business owners, and we want them that feeling of what it is to be in an office in the morning. So this would just be a phenomenal classroom. I'm going to run through a short presentation. I didn't know what to expect, so I'm probably going to be briefer than I thought, but that would be great. Why don't we go to one of our videos? I want to show you a video that
I'll give you a little background that not everybody here probably has the base information on CEO.
I will get. I promise I won't leave that out.
Okay.
Let's do the Have You Ever Lost Your Keys? This was created by a Sangamon CEO student. It was part of a project that we said, come up with a problem that you have. Just the problem, not the solution. Identify a problem.
Have you ever lost your keys? Which means you have to walk everywhere. Which means you're late to class. Which means you fail all your classes. Which means you don't graduate. Which means you get stuck in your parents' basement. You have to work at McDonald's. Which means you smell like French fries every day. Which means you attract a 65-year-old bum. Which means you'll have to buy cats for affection. which means the basement will smell like wet cat. Which means you'll be kicked out. Which means you'll be homeless. Which means you have to beg for money. Do not lose your keys.
Great video. Who here carries keys? Who has keys? We all have keys. Why do we have them? I get this with my students too. Somebody, you don't have to raise your hand. You can just tell me, why do you have keys?
Secure, open doors.
Open doors. Start the car, etc., etc. I tell you, I've got one of these. I don't know if you guys have seen it before. It's a phone. Okay, a couple of years ago, all I could do on my phone is make a phone call. Hey, how you doing? Nowadays, I can check my email, I can check text. Why can't I open the door with my phone? Why can't I start my car with my phone? Why am I carrying both of these around all the time? And if I lose one of them, I never seem to lose this. Does anybody ever lose their phone? I lose my keys from time to time, but I never lose my phone. This is the kind of things we think about at CEO. We started with 25 students this year in Sangamon County. As I mentioned, I'm a first-year teacher. The analogy that I drew for these students as we started out the year is I said, take a look around. We actually started with 26. Did I say 25? I'll explain how I got there real quick. We started with 26 students, so I said, look at yourself and now look around at the other 25 students, is what I meant to say. I said, pretend they're all working for you. You've got a company, and you've got 25 employees. Okay? They're all working for you. Now, you've got these 25 employees. How much you paying? Anybody give me an estimated payroll for a company with about 25 people? Anybody want to guess? I'll give you a free guess. Go ahead. Annual payroll for the entire company.
$1 million.
About $1 million? I think you'd come close to $1 million, but when you add on benefits, when you add on everything else that comes along with cost of employees, you come up to about $2 million. Now that's a number that they can imagine. That's a number they can understand. I mean, as they look at those other 25 students, they say, $2 million is what I'd have to pay all of you guys to work. So we talk about what would be some of the expectations you would have. I mean, would you expect your employees to show up at, 9:30, 10, roll in whenever they feel like it? Or would you want them to be 15 minutes early, sitting at their desk, ready for work? Right? And that's a concept they can grasp. Well, yeah, if I'm spending $2 million on these people, the least they can do is show up 5 minutes early and be ready to work on time every day. Sangamon CEO is supposed to run from 7:30 to 9. Students were showing up by 7 o'clock in the morning. In some cases, we're starting class at 7:15. Okay, now imagine that. 15 minutes, 5 days a week. That's almost an extra class I get with these students every single week. I'm having like 6 classes a week because they understand the concept that you got to show up on time. And on time means 15 minutes early. What time did you guys get here today?
11:30.
11:30?
11:40.
You were about 11:45? They should have all been here just about the time you got here or just before you, because that's a concept they now understand. Being on time makes a difference. Another thing we talk about is how we dress. They don't show up to class wearing shorts. Have you seen the shorts that are cut off with I love the socks with the slides instead of, they're like flip-flops you wear with the socks. We don't do that. I guess they do that in high school nowadays, wearing t-shirts and stuff like that. This is how all 3 of these students came dressed for class this morning. Okay, because we talk about that's the kind of first impression you're going to make on somebody. And if you had people working for you, if these other 25 students were your employees, How would you want them to show up? What would you want their appearance to be? Okay? So that's a lot of what we talk about is we talk about being on time, we talk about professional dress. We talk about engagement. Did any of you have a chance to meet the students as you walk through the door? These students should have been standing there prepared to shake your hand, look you in the eye, and shake your hand. You know what one of the interesting things is? They're ready to go. They want to meet you. They want to learn more about you. They want to learn more about your business. I have to work it on the flip side. Sometimes I have to explain to the business owners, these are serious kids. Stop and talk to them. They'll be like, oh, it's so nice to meet you. They're a 17-year-old kid. They can't possibly fathom. You know what I mean? Actually, they want to fathom. They want to learn. Stop and talk to these kids. They're prepared to ask you questions. They're prepared for you to ask them questions. It's called engagement. And we've all seen that kid in school. Have we seen some of these poses? They're sitting in class. Well, I love this one. This one's my favorite. Where they literally can't keep their head up. They're like this through class. Look how these students sit when they sit in class. They sit up. They pay attention to the guest speaker or who might be there. One of the last concepts, and we talk about, again, let me go back to my example. 25 employees. They're showing up to work. You're having a meeting. How do you want them to sit through that meeting? Do you want to sit there with their head down or with them staring at the ceiling or whatever? Or do you want, when you're talking to your employees, do you want them to pay attention to you? So that, again, we make that connection in that way. The last one is the one that's probably the most interesting. It's really a huge concept that it seems like it's very odd, but once you start to understand it, it's incredible. It's called best work on time. That's how we grade in CEO, is best work on time. Am I shouting? Am I too loud? They tell me that I shout sometimes. Anyways,
You're good.
it's called best work on time. And it sounds like, well, how do you get a grade out of that? Well, if you've got 25 employees, do you want them to do half work, turn it in 2 days late? You know what that is. You've seen that. You've done it as a high school student. You've done it as an adult sometimes. And you know what that looks like. You also know what best work on time looks like. Did you make your best effort, and did you turn it in when it was due? Those are just four of the kind of culture things that we create within CEO. They're concepts of culture. This is the new thing. So yeah, they leave class every day at whatever business that we're at, and they go back to school and they stop them in the hallway and say, oh, are you here to substitute? You'll be down in room 102. They'll say, no, I'm a high school senior at this school. So, you know, because of the way they present themselves, because of the way they act, because of their confidence, because of everything they now understand that they weren't getting before. So those are just four of the concepts. I'll move on. I'll talk a little bit about life lessons. And I tell you what, why don't we start by showing the video? Let's go to the CEO community, I think is the one I'm on. And let's play, yeah, the one with the boat.
You know how in school sometimes you think, why are we doing this? We've already done this. Well, that's the point in CEO. That's how you know things are valid, because you hear them in different places from different people.
Sorry,
and different.
let's scroll down to the student one. He's talking to me in that one. Sorry about that. A little technical. Actually,
You know how in school sometimes you think, why are we doing this? We've already done this.
all right, leave it
Well,
go.
that's the
Leave it
point
go.
in
It's only 2
CEO.
minutes.
That's how you know things are valid, because you hear them in different places from different people in different ways. The essential life skills that you need to be successful are really not complicated. You just have to understand how they connect to everything. Well, a lot of the life lessons that we do here in CEO connect to each other, and I hope you'll start to see the common themes that run from one to the other. This is a really, really big one here that we're about to do, one that will change the way you think about a lot of things. I hope you'll never forget it. Here we go.
When you take on a task of any kind, don't lose sight of the point of it, because in the end, nobody cares about the storm. When your task is to bring the ship safely into port, that's pretty much the whole story. Explaining that it sank in a storm isn't the same thing as bringing it in. Tying the ship up safely at the dock is the point. Nobody cares about the storm. You say you'll get something done, and it gets done. Period. Sometimes the problem is that the point gets lost. Will you call so-and-so and find out the answer to this question? Simple, right? The answer, I called and nobody answered, misses the point. The point was to get information, not make an attempt to call. See what I mean? For too many people, having a good story is the same thing as having completed the task. I was going to get that done, but my dog got sick, and a car drove by really fast and distracted me, and I had a lot of other things going on, and my pen ran out of ink, and the internet was down, and I thought I sent that to you anyway. You didn't get it? You want to set yourself apart from most other people? Do what you say you'll do. Do it in a way that people won't worry about the storm because they know that you will bring the ship in safely.
All of you just came from work. How many have you had that happen to you only this morning, where somebody's come to you with an excuse why some work hasn't been done, and are making, they're spinning that story right now as they're standing in front of you? What if you taught those people, what if those people had learned it when they were 16, 17, 18 years old? That's not the point. I asked you to make a phone call and get an answer for me. I'm sorry that they didn't answer that time, you had to leave voicemail, but I'm no better for it right now. You understand what they're saying with that? There's a number of life lessons that we talk about. We talk a lot about nobody cares about the storm. They know that one pretty well. Another one of my favorites is the art of conversation. I love how students start to learn to come to me and say, listen, I'm going to be out of town this weekend, and I'm going to be at my grandmother's up in Montana where there's no internet or electricity or indoor plumbing. So I'm not going to be able to turn in my assignment on Sunday like I'm supposed to, but I'll have it to you on Monday when I get back into town. If they tell me that on Thursday or Friday before the assignment's due, or they tell me that on Monday after class is over that they didn't turn in their assignment, how do you think those two conversations go? And if they can learn those concepts now, they can learn that very essential ideal of accountability, that I can be accountable. I matter and I can be accountable. It's just a huge part of who CEO is and what it does for these particular students. The other thing I want to talk about and really emphasize, am I going too long? Am I all right now?
I think you're good.
All right.
It's 12:30, just so you know.
All right. Connection to the community. And this was a top priority for us in Sangamon County. It should be everywhere. As everybody looks at their community, they're worried about that, that young demographic leaving and taking flight from the community. And what we try to do is connect them with as many people within our community as possible so that they feel like Sangamon County is their home. Even if they go away to college, they're going to come back to start their business, or they're going to want to come back to work, because they have met, we've done about, 80 guest speakers so far this year? So they've met about 80 different people. They've visited probably about 25 or different businesses in town and had the opportunity to have a tour of those. And getting that connection to the community is again, a very strong part of this program. So that, even if, like I said, even if they do leave, and hopefully they stay, and maybe they come up with the next greatest idea. I mean, I'm not kidding you, I'm waiting for one of my students to invent the real Iron Man suit. Could you imagine that if that was right there in Sangamon County?
He has said this more times.
I know they can do it. Somebody's going to come up with the real Iron Man suit. And you know what that's going to involve? That's going to involve like $100 billion of revenue running back into the community in Sangamon County when they do. And I do tell people, all right, that's kind of humorous, but I mean, Chobani, Facebook, they were all started somewhere. And they all grew out of somewhere. And it can happen in your community. But it really only happens. And what we need to start doing more than anything is there are kids out there with those traits, with those entrepreneurial traits. And I think one of the mistakes that we're making, one of the reasons I believe in this program so much, is that we spend so much time telling kids, oh, you should be a doctor, you should be a lawyer, you could be a banker, you could be a computer guy. We don't tell our kids to be entrepreneurs. When's the last time you've looked at one of your students or kids and said, you should be an entrepreneur? And what we're missing out on here is the opportunity to solve the world's problems. Because half of these problems that supposedly can't be solved, they're too naive, they're too innocent. They don't realize that the problems can't be solved, and guess what happens? They solve them. And that's because we gave them the push. We said, you need to be an entrepreneur. I'll show you one more video. It's partly connection to the community. Recently, we were on Fox and Friends. If you go on YouTube and do Sangamon CEO, you'll see that we were nationally televised on Fox and Friends for some things that we were doing. They flew us, a couple of students and one of the board members up to New York and put them through it. Prior to doing that, or just after doing that, they were on WAND. Did we lose it? That's it, right there.
Illinois' best source for news and weather. WAND News Today.
A group of local teens are headed to the Big Apple. They're all part of the Sangamon CEO. WAND's Marian Manko shows us how the school program is so unique, and they're making a live appearance on Saturday mornings, Fox and Friends.
When Sarah Petty isn't busy being a wife and a mom and running her Springfield photography studio, she's actually training her competition.
You know, Zig Ziglar always says, the more you help others get what they want, the more you get what you wanted.
The year-long program called Sangamon CEO allows business owners to teach seniors how to own and operate a business. Smith owns Great Frameworks Photography in Springfield.
We now just opened our studio a couple months ago, and we have a ton of clients.
Every school day, these students meet at a different business before classes even begin. They're almost finished organizing a huge business event taking place next month.
So for example, invitations, they have to get those invites out, or a silent auction, putting a silent auction together, or finding the venue, hosting a caterer. The goal is to let these kids get opportunities and take risks. A lot of people are 45 years old and they have a mortgage and they have a family when they decide to start a business.
Sarah, Nick, and Claire will be live Saturday morning on the Fox Network's Small Business Saturday segment.
I would hope that, programs like this start just sprouting up all over the country, because I know that it's been a life changer for me.
And I had an idea before coming into the class, maybe I'd be interested in business, but this has really confirmed that this is the path that I'd like to take. You can't buy confidence. You can't take a class in confidence. And I love watching them gain confidence. They're failing, they're succeeding, they're learning from it, and they're doing it as a group. So the bond that they have with each other is so strong, and I bet they're going to be lifelong friends.
Marian Manko, WAND News.
Sangamon CEO started 2 years ago, but the program originated in Effingham in 2008. It's a 50-50 partnership between businesses and schools, and for a link, you can go to our website and click Site Watch.
I think I probably said enough, if not too much. What I'd like to do is meet some of the students who have visited us today. Why don't we start with Griffin? Why don't you come up, introduce yourself, and tell them where you go to high school and share with them a little bit, Griffin.
Hello, I'm Griffin Gobecki. I go to Springfield High School.
I just love the Sangamon CEO program. I was actually somewhat of an entrepreneur before I started the program. I ran a lawn mowing service and grew it from 2 lawns to this year we hit 15. But this is a great opportunity to connections, great opportunity to learn how to do things the right way, doing more. A great story that I have is it encompasses a lot of stuff we learn in school, but in real life applications. We go through our speech class, but my story is we're supposed to go up and introduce ourselves to anybody who walks in the room. And we were at Mid-America Advertising, Jeff Stauffer's place, and one of his employees walked in. I remembered meeting him, so I went up and I shook his hand. I was the first one to do it. So I talked to him for a minute. I go back to my seat. I'm sitting down, and he's about to speak. And Mr. Mackey, we do these introductions for people, but we didn't know he was coming in that day. So Mr. Mackey decided that since I was the first one who introduced myself to him, I was going to introduce him that day. Before this program, I would have been deathly afraid. I would not have known how to do that. I would not have had the guts to get up there and do it. I didn't know that much about him, but I still stood up. I introduced him. He came up. We all clapped, and I got what I needed to do done. So I love the program. It's a great opportunity for kids my age. It really builds a strong bond between the community and us, and so
I'm going to let each of the kids introduce themselves, and I'm going to stand them all up here at the same time and let you ask them questions, so you can be thinking of what you want to ask them. Mackenzie, you want to come up and talk to the group?
Hi, I'm Mackenzie Beck. I go to Auburn High School, and as Griffin said, I love the program. Normally, before this program, I would have been like this right now. I would have been shaking so hard, but I'm not. We've done a lot of things that help us gain confidence. We've done this program called Toastmasters. Has anybody heard of Toastmasters? Raise your hand. No, not very many? Okay. Well, Toastmasters, we learn how to speak in front of people. We learn how to not say like or stay there, twirl your hair. We learn how to do things that make us look professional. And honestly, I mean, I can talk with my hands, but that's about all I do now. I would have been saying, like, yeah. I would have sounded exactly like a Valley girl right now, but I don't. So I think that with the experiences that we've learned meeting people, we've learned how to communicate better and get across better than what we did beforehand. And my all-time favorite memory is when we went to Green Automotive, and it was our first failure. Honestly, we asked for a donation or a sponsorship for our name badges, and we were offering them at a certain price, and the owner gave us $100, and that was not even close to what we were asking for. So we didn't know what to do with it. We said, I mean, this is great, but I mean, we can't put you on here. And he said, well, if somebody hands you $100, what are you supposed to do with it? Give it back to them? So that was one of the biggest learning experiences that I've gone through, at least, because I've never really dealt with anybody saying, well, then what are you going to do with it? I mean, are you just going to put it in your pocket, or are you going to use it? So I think that's my favorite experience.
Alright, I'm Dr. Kirby and I go to Southeast High School. So how many of you guys were like absolutely just done with high school when you were in your senior year? A lot, right? So but I enjoy getting up in the morning and being in class at 7:15 in the morning. And, at the beginning I was a little afraid, thinking that maybe I wasn't going to be able to get up at 5:30 in the morning and be at these different locations every single day. But it actually has been one of the greatest opportunities I've ever been presented with. So instead of being in the ideal kind of iconic classroom setting, we're in a different business location every single day, and we meet in conference rooms like actual businessmen and women. So the biggest difference is because we're being talked with, not to. So we get to converse with other business owners and people like we're their peers, not just we're under them. So, and another thing that, touching on what Mackenzie said, is my public speaking skills have tremendously improved. I still legit now, but I mean, that's a given. So I used to be absolutely petrified of public speaking. Now I'm a little bit better with it, but still kind of messes me up. But we've done this program for a while now, and we're working on our class project, which is actually going to be at the LRS hangar at the Abraham Lincoln Airport. So I serve as the CFO, co-CFO for the event. So I'm in charge of all the money and everything. And some of the numbers that I've been given and had to work towards are scary. So to say the least, our minimum net gross that we want to get is right around $23,700. So if we get that, that'll give each student $500 to use for their own personal businesses, which we will start in the spring. So, but see, I say this sewing stuff too, so I'm not. If our projected amount that we're going to get is right around 35. So if we get that, it'll be absolutely amazing. And we're planning on investing into the class for 3 years and also giving $1,000 to the next class so they can use on their class businesses and what they're going to do for their name tag. So it's just really, it's just a business type environment. And I mean, I don't mind going to class in the morning, and I don't have senioritis. I want to get up, I want to go to school. I'm going to be sad when it ends, because I guarantee you I'll enjoy this more than I will college. Because I've learned more. I've learned more in this program than I have in the past 3 years. I mean, it's just such a different environment, and you're learning so many different things. It's priceless. And that's kind of my pitch on all this stuff.
So back to Beth's work on time, as he mentioned, the students do a series of projects and assignments throughout the year. All of this is for them to gain first-hand knowledge, okay, experience from the business owners. We don't believe in hypotheticals, okay? Why make up a business situation when you can just go to the business and hear from the business owner himself, say, hey, this is what I was dealing with, and this is the solution that I came up with it. As they work through this, they do a couple of fundraising things, and they put together some money, and then they divvy that up, and in April 30th, somewhere in that time frame this spring, we will, each one of these students will launch their own individual business. So right now they're kind of running through ideas and different concepts. It varies anything from piano lessons and lawn care all the way up to photography studios. It can be just about anything that they're passionate about. Because that's one of the things we talk a lot about with entrepreneurism, is you really want to be passionate about whatever you're doing. You really want to love what you're doing. That's how you end up starting that business. That's how that business ends up succeeding. Patrick wants to talk for a couple of minutes, and then I'm going to bring the 3 students back up here and put them on the hot seat. So think about what you want to ask them, because they'll be willing to answer anything you got.
Thanks, Brandon. So I made a big assumption that everybody went out and viewed the video and read the information on the link I gave in the email that I sent out, and I failed to do any real background on why we're all here. But and Brand just jumped right in with everything with the program. But you're obviously here because something in the email drew you to stopping the brain drain in Logan County, on helping entrepreneurialism in our young students. So we have, when I say we, I mean Andy Hake from the Chamber, Bob Bagby from the high school, and April, my wife, and I kind of grabbed the reins of this thing about a year ago and said, this is something we think that our community needs, and we have been pursuing it since that time. We have plans. This program will launch in Logan County next fall, so fall of 2015. And it's not a Lincoln High School only, it's Lincoln, Mount Pulaski, which Todd's here somewhere, there he is, and Olympia. So all the schools are involved, and the intent is in our first year to grab Logan County students from those schools. They go through a selection process to be a part of the program, so it's not open to just all students, all seniors. we are in the process of finalizing the recruitment of businesses for investing in financial investment, investing with time and saying, hey, I'd be willing to be a guest speaker, I'd be willing to be a student mentor, I'd be willing to give gas cards or help with printing costs, whatever the case might be, to engage the business community with this program. Without the businesses being involved, it's not the same program. Am I correct? So, the context of this meeting is to educate you on the value of this program, why we're trying to bring it here so that you can see how you can be involved, and if it's something you're willing to be a part of. The students that we have visited at various programs that we've talked to and done site visits, they've ceased to amaze us. We're just always impressed by the students, and have to remind ourselves that these are high school seniors. You know, I think of high school seniors as, you know, my kids, and I think they're not this professional yet, you know? So if we weren't so impressed by what we have seen for this already existing program, this is not us creating something new. If we were not so impressed by what we've seen and had so many great reports, we wouldn't be here today pushing this for Lincoln. But I believe that this is a phenomenal program for Lincoln and Logan County, for our students here, and if this is something you want to be involved in, since they're going to stay and talk for as long as we ask them to, as long as you guys are asking questions. If you have to leave because you've got to get back somewhere, feel free to go ahead and leave. I want to get my pitch in before you start to leave. So, with that.
Would you three come stand up front? And I tell you what, I'll even help you out. I'll get the questions started. Griffin, I guess all the students have to do their own individual business. Can you share with us what you're thinking about doing for your individual business?
I've run a lot of ideas there. I started with I wanted to be involved in moving. I also, when somebody asks me, a lot of times we get asked out in public what business we want to run. I have a passion for heavy machinery, so I kind of want to be involved in excavating. So I'm trying to look into ways to do it in a small level for my individual business, because I think it'd be really cool to get a grasp on that early in life, and then potentially get bigger when I get older. So.
Well, I want to start a non-for-profit business that raises awareness for anorexia. I mean, I've had personal experience with it. It hits close to home when it's said, but I don't think that there's enough awareness about it, that people need to know what it is, how it happens, you know, what causes it. And I'm working with Camila Saraf from Gen H. She's the CEO of Gen H, which works in schools trying to, I think it's lower the obesity level in schools by cutting certain things off of their menu and putting healthier things on there. So I'm asking her if she wants to be on my board so we can work on both ends of the spectrum, her with obesity and I with anorexia.
Okay, so there's me. I want to do something fun. So, not saying that you're something. No, but I want to do kind of like a sports betting kind of company, and I know that's kind of difficult to do, so I'll have to jump through a couple hoops. But I want to be able to allow students, adults, to kind of throw in their money into a pot and then bet on their favorite team, and kind of like what they do with fantasy football kind of thing online, but in person and kind of real. And I know that it's kind of been an epidemic, so with the gambling things and slot machines that have been going on. But I think if I do this, it'll be kind of an organized mayhem that'll work. So. But,
Does anybody else have any questions?
I would like to ask, did all of you have an idea of the business before you signed up for the program? Did all of you know you wanted to own a business when you started?
I knew for sure that I wanted showing passion for what you do helps a lot to make work not as much work as it is fun. So yeah, I knew for sure, but I know there's several people in the class who didn't.
I know I did. I want to be a veterinarian. Honestly, I want to be a vet. But this business is something that I am so passionate about that I want to start because I know that the world needs awareness for this disease. But I knew that I wanted to do something in business beforehand because my dad owns his own carpentry business. And I've seen the products of his labor and how awesome it is. So I've always wanted to do business, but I just didn't know what I wanted to do.
So it's kind of ironic. My father tried entrepreneurship kind of way before and didn't do so well. And I kind of went on the path with him down that road, which wasn't fun at times, but I definitely got a little taste of what you kind of had to go through. But one of the things that he always says is make sure you do it when you don't have a family underneath you to kind of be backlashed by it if you don't succeed. So I was afraid of being an entrepreneur because of that, and I've always wanted to be a financial consultant, but I would want to work for like a firm or a large company like that. But after being in the CEO program and learning these things, I'm not as afraid as I used to be. My eyes have been opened. And my father also said that it's a lot. I know more than he does about running a business than he did when he started. So I honestly, beginning of this year, didn't want to start my own business. I didn't have any plans on starting my own business, but I practically have my whole life planned out now after the. I'm serious, like I like. What? I was gonna throw something in. The excavating thing I talked about earlier, that was a goal way down the road for me. I thought that would be something I'd do after I started smaller businesses, but from this program I got a little more gutsy and told people about this goal, and from that I met several people who can help me get to it earlier than I ever imagined, and just learning to be vocal about it, not through the program, but I've met some people that can help me with that stuff, so I just think that's really cool that it's just that I've become more vocal about the stuff I want to do.
What's the application process that you had to go through, and what's the attrition rate of the
So
class?
we had to fill out a sheet, and well, we had to write an essay, which was over business, or 2 essays. Yeah.
One about business.
Yeah, the business that we'd like to start. And we had to fill out this huge packet that, dealt with what our goals are, how we stand in school, and certain things like that. And I think that it really narrowed down probably what all of the applicants, because all of the kids in our class are really smart, super smart. James has to be one of the smartest math kids I know. Honestly, I know he is super smart. So this is not just another a blow-off class. It is intense.
It's like applying for a job.
It is.
When I got my acceptance letter in the mail, I had shivers run through my back because I was so surprised that I got in, because with 7 schools, you assume that there's going to be a lot of applicants, and they don't tell us the amount of applicants there are.
There's like 40 something.
I think it was more than that.
I thought it was.
Well, tell me.
Well, let me talk about the other side, the flip side of the application process. Springfield's like any other small town, and this is one of the reasons that CEO is run the way it is. Okay, you take your investors and you get $1,000 a piece, so everybody's got an equal say, and we don't see somebody moving in and trying to take over the program and make it their own. That way everybody shares in running the program. And the other thing is, just like any other small town, when we take those applications, those are blind, okay? Because we don't want somebody to get into it because he's so-and-so's kid, or, do you understand what I'm saying? Those blind applications, we don't see the names, we don't see whose family is connected to, what have you. They're based on merit, and it's that simple. So, I don't know if that makes sense to you. Go ahead.
How many are in the Sangamon County program?
26.
26?
Yeah.
And
18 last year and 26.
How many applicants do you have?
I don't actually know the exact number. I can tell you that we had at least twice, not 3 times, somewhere in between the twice to 3 times range of that. So that would be somewhere between 50 and 75.
What criteria do you three think you had that made you be picked?
We're all passionate. That is probably the key to, did I say something?
No, passion.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing, is passion. We're all driven by one thing and one thing only, and we want to be successful and we want to help people.
Do you all start as seniors or seniors?
We fill out the application our junior year, and then it's our
And
senior
you
year.
start your senior.
And the first couple of weeks are extremely weird.
Nobody knew each other.
No, and I mean, we knew like the names, and I went to school with a couple of the parochial kids because I started in parochial schools, but I hadn't seen them in a long time, so it was like meeting new people. So, and in business, you're never going to be with your best friend starting a business. And I was talking about that earlier with someone else, but like, you can't pick and choose who you're going to be with. You're just going to find people along the way that are going to be interested in what you're interested in, and you're going to make a connection with them that's different than the ones you had when you were 14, 15, 16, 17 in high school.
We went to middle school together, but didn't go to high school together, and I can tell you the connections we have now are a lot different than they were in middle school. Yeah.
I never went to Springfield, so.
So do you stay associated with it after you graduate high school, or is that?
I believe that we will. We'll all stay in touch in some way, shape, or form. I have friends that are alumni and that aren't even here.
Okay.
So I believe that we'll all stick together.
The alumni were actually, the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, we're all there. 75% of the alumni came back for an alumni and current student get together, and we played some games and did some class competitions.
And we
They
learned,
won, but
we learned a lot about what they learned last year too.
And like one of the things if you do start this program is make sure that people know about it. Like I was kind of blind about it until I played baseball with one of the alumni from last year, and when he told me about it and explained it to me, I was just I was fanatic. I just wanted to send my application in as soon as possible.
Yeah.
So
I played golf with a girl that was in it last year. She would come in, we had weights together, weights class, and she's like, yeah, I had a really good time today. And I'm just like,
Whoa.
what? Why are you so excited to be here? But now I understand. You had a question?
I understand the passion and the program that develops the passion and the camaraderie between the 25 or 26 students that you build this every time you meet with a business. Now, the other half of that, at the schools, are you receiving support programs and that as far as when you get into this business, accounting, how to read a P&L statement, how to read a cash flow statement, how to go on about being in business, and you said you've been in business, went from 2 to 15 lawn mowing jobs. You had to learn how to manage your funds,
yes.
your expense accounts and things like that. Are you getting that support from the schools then, or is this all incumbent in this one program?
It's more in the program. We can choose to take business classes at school, but that's completely, the business teachers actually, a few of them don't. One of our previous business teachers at our school is actually now Mr. Mackey over in Jacksonville. But some of the teachers who are business teachers there don't even know about the program or don't know a lot about it because it is completely different than the school level stuff. We do get, we have had some stuff with financial statements. We do a lot with Sickage, which is a local accounting firm, actually all around basically financial side of a business. They're one of our investors. They have come and spoke to us twice. I've heard that next semester is a lot more of the down to the basics with that stuff. This semester with a lot of the passion, a lot of the drive, and
getting us comfortable in the environment first. So
yes.
And then that next semester they're going to throw us in. So
I'm not in any business class other than this one. I mean, I'm in calculus and I'm in advanced classes, but I have never taken a business class. And this was like jumping into cold water. It's an awesome, jumping into cold water is an awesome experience, but once you get out and you get warm, that's a whole nother story. And that's kind of what this program is you jump in and you learn how to do things that you didn't know before. And now I'm starting to get comfortable with it, and it's easy for me to go up to somebody. The other day, I got my hair cut, and a lady was sitting next to me, and we were sitting there talking, and I said, yeah, I'm in this advanced business program, and she's like, oh, Sangamon CEO. And we sat there and talked about it for at least 15 minutes. And just certain people know, certain people don't, and when you introduce CEO to somebody that doesn't know, and just see how they react to it, it's amazing.
I have the reverse of that, but it shows like the amount of accountability we feel now. I was sitting in the local discount tire in Springfield, and one of the business owner's sons came in and they said their name, and I heard it, and I didn't take the time, like I was nervous about asking if he was related to them, so I didn't. But every time I go back to that store now, I think about that story, and I hate like that I didn't speak up. So it's not like when we don't do an assignment at school, we don't really feel guilty about it at the end of the day. But we do feel guilty if we don't do stuff like that.
I just add, in terms of support, you know, the program itself is always there, and the board members and so forth are always available. So if one of the students, even 2 years from now, were to call me and say, Mr. Mackey, well, they call me Brant by then, they'd say, I got an issue, can you help? I'd either connect with them with somebody that could help or not. The other thing that we're running a little bit late on this year, but we're going to get it done, is on Wednesday they'll get their mentor matches. So they'll have a mentor to help them through this last half of the year as they bring that business live. So they can ask them questions, anything from financials to business plans, marketing plans, performance, P&L, all that stuff. So they've got me, they've got the mentors, they've got the guest speakers, they've got anybody, it's all hands on deck. Whoever can jump in and help. We've got a tremendous, with the investors and the board, tremendous support in Sangamon County.
So nobody's going to turn us away.
And even if they do, we have other people to come to.
But touching on Mr. Mackey's point too, I was kind of a funny story. I was at a Rotary Club, and I was speaking and I accidentally said Brant instead of Mr. Mackey, and I didn't realize it until like 3 or 4 words afterwards, and then I just stopped and like just kind of just waited for myself to say something, and then I finally said Mr. Mackey, and then so like he like looked at me, and I'm like, but you know, it's not so much that he's a teacher; he's more or less another mentor along the way, helping us, guiding us into our occupation. So like, I mean, he occasionally will call himself a teacher, but he's mainly a mentor. He's just another person trying to help us, and he's just another person giving us his insight on what he thinks is the right thing.
Just one there every day.
Is there any more questions? Guys are good.
I'll chime something in real quick. One of the things that when we first started pursuing this program for our area, they said one of the biggest challenges that you'll have, since this is all privately funded, is not raising the money and not getting the investors, but it's getting your schools on board. I'm here to say that didn't take us any time at all. Bob Bagby, he caught on very quickly and has been one of the biggest advocates for this program. So and Bob, if you want to say anything, feel free to make your way up or just beller it out, but based on what you've seen, this program is not traditional classroom lecture. This is if you go out and watch the video that on the What is CEO, it says it's about doing. So it's involvement, it's engaging, and it's actually doing the things that are always talked about. The other thing is when we look at trying to line up the mentors, if you want to be mentors, you can be mentors. There are a lot of excellent mentor potential people in here for working with these kids and providing them the life coaching that they need in order to be successful. And so if that's something that you're interested in, let Andy know or let me know, and we'll be sure to put you on a list and do that matchup at some point.
And about the mentors, we kind of selected the industries we wanted to go into so that they help us specifically. They weren't just random. They're set up to, he's probably going to be with a finance guy. I actually already know I'm with Mike O'Shea because he's a builder in town, so he already knows about my dreams of excavating. So they're matched up really well, and it's a really cool thing. I'm really excited to officially get my mentor.
For example, I did a little cheating and found out my mentor after a little digging. But my mentor is a financial consultant. He's in a private proprietorship by himself and one other person. So he runs that business, and like I said, I thought I wanted to go into like a company, a large company of financial consultants and stuff like that. But like after looking up his background and looking up where he came from, because he started in a large company too, and then went to the smaller side, and it's just a more personable kind of do your own thing. Like no one wants to be boss around. That's just life. Like I want to be my own boss. I want to be the person telling other people what to do. And I know that sounds
Nobody
evil.
likes to be bossed.
Yeah, nobody likes to be bossed around, even though I'd be the one bossed around. But
He's been swung on this, because I remember earlier in the year earlier in the year you were a little more into the big, like you said just a minute ago, but that you were into going into something big.
oh yeah.
And now you're more towards the little stuff.
So Bob, you want to take a minute to,
I think what really I've been to the program in Effingham 3 times, and it is the most amazing thing I've seen in education in recent memory. That's how excited I am about the program. A couple things running through my head here, talking about calling the instructor by the first name. Craig Lindvall was the person speaking on the video. He's the founder and CEO of this program, and he's affectionately known in Effingham just by Al. It's not Mr. Lindvall, it's not Craig, everybody calls him Al. That's how he's known in Effingham. Give a story, you're talking about students are there by 7, ready to go by 7:15, even though it doesn't start till 7:30. One day, they had a snow day down there, and they have a bunch of schools. We are going to run this through LTEC, even though the high school is not involved. LTEC is Lincoln Technical Education Center. We offer building trades, auto mechanics, welding, culinary arts. Anyway, it's the vocational center that Mount Pulaski, Illini Central, Williamsville, Hartsburg-Emden, Greenview, and now this year we've added Athens, Porta, Ashland, Chandlerville. Todd, did I leave anybody out? I don't think. Anyway, but anyway, the class is supposed to start at 7:30. They had all these schools had a snow day down there, and the students called the instructor, said, "Are we meeting?" He goes, "No, there's a snow day." They said, "Okay, well, we're going to be at Starbucks at 7:30 if you want to join us." And every student was there. That's how excited they're about this program. True story?
It is, yes.
And it's really student run, and it's run by the investors, and even if you don't want to be an investor, we need mentors. The last time I happened to be there, 3 mentors were there that day. They didn't have to be there, but they want to be there. And I still remember the car dealership, the owner of the car dealership, I see Chris left, but you can be represented there, Scott, but he was hooked up with one of the students, and the student finally told him, "You know, your website's not very good." And it really crushed the car dealership owner. And he goes, what do you mean? And he goes, "Well, I'm in techie stuff." And so the owner of the car dealership changed his website and tripled his traffic through the door. But again, what I'm trying to say is not only do the students learn, but the mentors learn as well. It's just an unbelievable opportunity because, as we all know, we're tired of our best and brightest students leaving the community and not coming back. Or leaving the community, becoming successful somewhere else and not coming back. And this is an opportunity to keep our best and brightest students at home. Where we're at is, I've met with all the area guidance counselors from all the schools. They have the information. They have an application for their students. We have not released that as of yet. I know our next step is we've actually got to finalize the board. We need to select a teacher and things like that. But Lincoln High School, I will say this, is so excited about the program. The Board of Education purchased the former Owl's Roost coffee shop and bookstore down here on the corner in our building trades class, again, which is made up of all the area students, not just Lincoln High. They're going to be renovating that this spring so that if we don't have a place to host it, or if something comes up and a business has to cancel, we actually have a place to permanently host the class. But that's my sales pitch.
Mr. Mackey over here, so I could ask him why we don't have a coffee shop.
Can I interject?
Go ahead.
On the behalf of the chamber, I'll use it, I don't talk very loud.
The reason the chamber liked this idea, loved this idea, we heard a story. There were 23 kids that started in the first Effingham program, and they asked the entering class, how many of you plan to stay in Effingham, this area, when you graduate college or high school and work here and live here? What was it? 3 of those. At the end of the class, they asked the same question to the same group of kids, and it was 21 of those had changed their mind. Because not only did they get the gift of knowledge that that experience gave them, they engaged with that community on a level they had never done before. So that's the stop the brain drain part of this. We're giving knowledge and experience, we're passing that off onto our students, and in return, we're gaining so much more in return. That's why we love this one of the many reasons we love this program. We're financially investing in it. In addition to, the board has approved us giving in kind office help, managing the finances, all of that kind of stuff. So,
Any other questions for our students?
there was one question you asked, I can't remember who, something about dropout rate or something like that. Attrition. In all that we know about in the whole history of the program, there's been one student dropout. That's it. Or asked to leave. We don't really know the situation.
That's not from Sangamon. That's
Not from this program. That's from all of them. And there's many programs started already.
Kind of on a side note too, like, we're scared to come back and start a business like in Springfield. We don't see opportunities. We kind of, if we get one somewhere else, we're like, oh, those are new people, they're not going to judge me. But if we see people with open arms coming and saying, please come and start your business here, we'll help you along the way, it makes us feel good about coming back and starting it. And this program, that's what it does. It shows us that there is actually support and you can form connections in the community that will allow you to come back and start your own business there. So that's what this whole program is about. I think it's been doing a great job convincing all of us to come back and kind of start our own business.
A lot of people keep talking about the early thing and like being on time, being early. I have a pretty funny story about that. One of my best friends in the class, he called me at 6:45 in the morning and said, "Are we still at Bun?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, nobody's here." I said, "Matt, you're there at 6:45. Do you expect somebody to be there?" Yeah. So we are extraordinarily early or right on time. Our class is very good about that, and I think that's just an overall thing with the CEO culture.
It is. I'm sorry. I was going to say across all the different programs that we've talked to and visited, consistent story. They're always there and always starting before the scheduled time because the students are engaged and they're excited about what they're doing and what they're learning.
And I have one more side note. How many of you are honestly worried about our generation? Like, see, I mean, I'm not wrong because our generation sucks. It does. Everybody is scared about it. See, yeah, everybody is scared about our generation, but we are the ones here trying to make a change and make a difference. We don't want to be the ones that, oh, I'm gonna just go work at McDonald's because I can do that. No, we're gonna be the ones starting new businesses, and we're gonna be the ones that change the world.
I have no doubt in my mind that by the time I graduate college, this will be a national program. This is just it'll grow so fast once it catches on because
it's already interest days.
I know
yeah, it's like Minnesota,
Indiana, Wisconsin.
Yeah, and they're trying to get something.
I was actually at a college in Moorhead, Minnesota, and I mentioned this program. And it was a college dean, but he got all excited and he said, "Well, maybe if you go here, you could be responsible for getting that started here." Like, oh, I'm still in the program, but you're already talking about me bringing this other places. But that was kind of cool.
Any other questions?
I'm just going to make a comment because I get to see. I have the best job in the world because I get to see high school students every day. Your generation doesn't, quote, suck. There are a few lazy people, but my generation had lazy people. And I'll tell you what, my generation leaving people a mountain of debt that this nation will never be able to pay off. So don't think your generation is the one that's going to, how do I say it? People thought our society, our generation is that way too. So you'll be just fine.
Maybe I worded that wrong, but
No,
people are scared about
you
it.
just fine.
One of the things interesting too is that it helps us as business people understand the students and the generation so that we know how to interact with them. So, and that's
I have a
part of it.
question. Have any of you started your journals for this weekend?
Yes.
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 No.
I don't know.
And my assessment.
Well, thank you. Let's thank you. Appreciate you coming. We're really excited to get this going here. Andy and April have commitment forms if you're interested in signing up to be an investor, a mentor, a site visit, a guest speaker. Please do so and get those back to us as soon as you can. We want to have this thing all sewn up by the end of December if at all possible.
I love it. You're like, you were on I want to be a farmer.
You're going to Napa. You guys know what time.
So I
There's a lot more.
That is the worst.
There was just an article, and I think also finance, about people like that, and how do you hire them?
Standards
How do
going
they
up.
work? She's my architect. And what do millennials do for you? And I literally, the question I asked, you have to hire them people that are staying so much. This morning she showed us work at 9:30, she still said, you know, 10 o'clock.